Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Delightful. Today is, say it with me, people, it is Friday. Woohoo! Friday, September 13th, Friday the 13th. Hope that's a lucky day for you, for me, for us all. Um, Been an eventful week. What with the debate. I'm going to put that in air quotes, debate for the between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump for the U.S. presidency. Uh, I didn't necessarily want to watch it. I know I castigated y'all for watching the Biden-Trump debate, asking why you did it. I only watched this one because David wanted to watch it, but I was glad I did. I was so impressed with Kamala. And because I am a Swiftie, as you all know from way, way back, I was actually on Instagram real time when Taylor Swift's endorsement popped up. So that was, well, a nice bit of history. Um, I was never one of these people who was like, Taylor needs to do this already. Uh, I always knew she would endorse at some point. And we know she's a mastermind that she would pick her moment. I think it's like the new Swifties that they like have no faith. But it's been kind of funny because this week a number of my friends have been contacting me knowing that I'm a Swiftie and that they aren't necessarily, and they're like, saw what your girl Taylor did. Well done. So yeah, it's just amazing. Apparently in her Instagram post endorsing Kamala Harris, she linked to vote.org. And in the first 24 hours after her post, vote.org got 450,000 hits of people checking their voter registration. So it's been kind of fun watching the MAGA trolls spinning and trying to complain about Taylor. I saw one where this guy was saying, well, Taylor Swift is a billionaire and she's not like you. She's not at the grocery store trying to figure out how to feed her cats. And she doesn't care about you. She's not going to help you. And it's like, well, she actually donates tons of money to food banks in every city that she plays in. Apparently, in England, from her Eras tour, the amount of money she gave to food banks for her concerts is more than the government has given. And besides which, Taylor does know how to go to the grocery store. She doesn't say really bizarre things like you go to the grocery store and show your grocery ID, and then you have to pay $100 a pound for cereal. Bet you anything, Taylor knows exactly how much cereal costs. She cooks, she bakes, she grew up as a regular person. She did not grow up a trust fund child. So, anyway, it's been funny watching them trying to both say that celebrity endorsements don't matter and then also trying to figure out ways to undermine the who is arguably the most popular entertainer around the world right now. So, I do have actual writing things to talk about today. Well, kind of. I do want to tell you all a story um, about people wanting gossip. It's an interesting thing. It's on my mind this week for reasons. First, I do want to report in on my progress. Uh, I have had a great week, and yesterday I actually hit over 3,000 words in one day. Woohoo! Yay! I hit 3,040 words. And it is the first time in a long time that I've gotten 3,000 words in one day. So, how long has it been, Jeffy? You may well ask. And I'm not sure that Jeffy knows. I don't know if I can tell you. Let me see if I can tell you. It's not a definitive answer. It might be a year ago, July 2023. Interestingly, on writing Never the Roses, I was hitting those levels. Now, writing book 2 in that series, I'm hitting those levels. Do you think this is the thing I'm supposed to be writing, people? Um, so yeah, I'm having fun writing this book. I've had a banner week so far with A Rose in the Mirror. Um, I have, I mean, yeah, I'm on track. I'm doing a good job. I had a slow start to the week for one reason or another, but I have so far this week done over 8,000 words, 3,000 of them yesterday, which was awesome. If um, if I stay on track, I should have my best week ever this week, topping ever, all year. Sorry, what is time? Uh, but I should be. I might be even last week if all goes well today. So, so that would be awesome, huh? I'm very happy. It's feeling good. Uh, Chola chole. So I posted a thread about my experience with Purple Fern Bookstore, and I yeah, I posted that on Wednesday. I've been trying to do like a little microblog thread on Wednesday, and I really got amazing results on that. I think I'll link to it rather than reiterate the story here. Uh, well, maybe I could do a quick reiteration. I hadn't talked about it. I don't think, maybe I had, but I was hoping that we could resolve this situation. So I hadn't wanted to get out there and skunk on them. But essentially, what happened with Purple Fern is this new bookstore in my neighborhood. A year ago, June 2023, they opened in, like, I don't know, April or May, something like that. I was walking by my little shopping center here in my unincorporated neighborhood outside of Santa Fe, and saw this new bookstore. And of course, as one does, you see a new bookstore, you go in and introduce myself. I was all excited. And they asked if I wanted to do an event with Melinda Snodgrass. And, yeah, I'll do anything with Melinda Snodgrass. We always have fun together. So they set up this event for us in June. As I'm walking in, and like we've emailed about this, she got information from us, got like our websites and everything. As I'm walking in, Melinda's walking out, and I'm like, "Whoa, what?" And it's still like 15 minutes before the event. And I said, "What's the deal?" And Melinda says, "Well, they don't have our books. They had like two of her Wild Cards books with George, right? The George R. R. Martin connection there, because Melinda's been besties with George since early '90s, forever, before he was George, as she puts it. Uh, so Melinda has to go home to get her books, and of course, I just turn on my heel and. Well, actually, let me correct, the bookstore owner sort of comes out right then as we're having this conversation in front of her shop, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I wasn't able to get any of your books because your books aren't on Ingram." Now, for those of you who don't know, Ingram is the distributor to bookstores. They have almost a monopoly. And I said, "Yes, they are." And she goes, "No, I looked, they're not." I'm like, "Okay." I'm hybrid, right? I traditionally publish and self-publish. My publishers are professionals, and they have my books on Ingram. I am also a professional. I put my books on Ingram. I can see them on there. I know that they're there. So she doesn't have any of my books. So, and didn't think to mention this ahead of time. She also tries to say that she hasn't been able to get in touch with me, even though she had my email address. Later, it turns out, let me do a little bit of a spoiler reader. My emails had gone to her spam account, and she didn't know how to check her spam email. Melt emoji. So I go home, get a big box of my books. The event starts late because we have to do this. She sells several of my books at the event. And I ask her what she wants to do, like how she wants to handle this. And she says, well, I don't know, consignment, blah, doesn't know her business, obviously. So I say, okay, look, I'll give you the same deal I give Beasley Books, Georgia's bookstore in town, which is an incredibly generous deal, people, where I say I sell my books to the bookstore at my cost, and then they get to keep the profit. So let me reiterate, I do not turn a profit on this deal. It's worth it to me because this is how I support an independent bookstore. Their profit margins are not high. This is something I can do for them. That I'm not operating at a loss, but they get the profit on my books, and they have my books on their shelves. And so it's promotional opportunity for me. Beasley Books, awesome. I mean, I get tagged by people on social media who say they were visiting Santa Fe and wandered into the bookstore, and Beasley Books pointed them to my books, and they ended up buying a trilogy and buying this and buying that, and it's great. So it's worth it to me. So I offer this gal the same deal. She's a brand new bookstore owner, and she says great. So she picks out all the books she wants. I go home, put together an invoice, and send it to her. It's about $150. She does not pay it. She does not pay it then. She does not pay it with a mouse. She does not pay it on a house. She does not pay my invoice for over a year. Despite repeated reminders, I took paper copies into the bookstore. Every time I emailed one and then take one into the bookstore, they'd say, "Oh, we don't get your emails." So I had finally decided that I was going to go in and reclaim at least all of my books that she hadn't yet sold. Remember that she's made a profit on the books she has sold. Uh, but I'm at least going to go get them and revise my invoice and send her one last invoice for the book she had sold on general principle. But I kept putting it off because at this point I was angry. I was so angry. Um, I'm a small business too. it's it's not going to break me, but it's the principle of the thing, and I'm out that money, right? I'm out that money, and I'm out that stock. So I finally screw up my courage, screw down my anger, pick a day when I'm feeling fairly zen, go over there. And on that particular day, they are papering over the windows and saying, closed for filming through the weekend. And I'm like, oh, of course you are. And I make a bet with myself that they are never going to reopen. Reader, they never reopened. Went by a week or two ago, and papers down off the windows. The shop is empty. All the books are gone, including my books, which she does not own and she stole. So there's my business loss. I told this story on Threads and did caveat. Not all indie bookstores, not even exclusive to indie bookstores, but it's a shitty way to treat authors. Why do you do that? I mean, she's clearly terrible at her business, and no wonder she probably went bankrupt. Did not know what she was doing, and took my money with her. Last night, somebody messaged me and said that they would like to pay that invoice in honor of our book community, and it was the nicest thing. And I said she didn't have to do that, and she said she wanted to. Um, so we'll see. I don't feel like it's fair for her to have to pay it, but it really meant a lot to me. It moved me. So that was kind of my down story for the recent past. I wanted to talk a little bit about people wanting to know things. And I understand that we are creatures of gossip. But and I know I've come out very strongly on the side of that. A lot of the social frowning on gossip uh, it's the patriarchy, right? Not wanting women, especially, like, oh, women gossip. It's like, well, you don't want your oppressed people talking to each other, right? Because there's power in us communicating with each other. But there is this thing, because I ran into an old friend, someone I hadn't seen in a really long time. She stopped me. She called my name, actually over in this same little shopping center. It's partly why it's on my mind. And I actually walked past her. I saw this woman on her phone and had walked past her. I was intent on my grocery acquisition errand. And she called my name behind me, and I turned around and she said, "I thought that was you in your hat." I'm distinguishable. And I almost didn't recognize her because her hair was much shorter, and I'm terrible at recognizing people. And we had used to be fairly good friends. And then, battery low. Please charge now. Sorry, that's my speaker. I was listening to some of Becca Syme's podcasts yesterday while I was crunching royalties on Clifton Strength stuff. That was interesting. I'll talk more about her later. So anyway, this gal. Becca Syme, by later I mean like next podcast, not today. So this gal and I are doing the "How are you?" "Oh, I'm good." It was like, how are each of your kids? How's your husband? This kind of thing, right? Really long time since I'd last talked to her. She had emailed me, I want to say 2 years ago, after a very long time of no contact, asking if I wanted to get together. And I said yes. And then she said, well, actually, they were going to Europe for like a month, and she would contact me when they got back. And I said, okay. And then she never did. Oh, well, okay. So then she asks me a question about a certain scandal. And I said, well, it's a lot of drama. It's a lot of noise. And she's like poking at me for more information. And she says, oh, yeah, like this other mutual of ours, who I wasn't sure who she meant at first. And then she reminded me. I was like, oh, and she's like, yeah, we talk every day. And she told me about it. And I'm like, okay, still not giving you any information. And it reminded me of, especially a very casual acquaintance to me. If a friend comes to me and says, so what happened with this deal? I'm going to tell you, let's have a glass of wine and I'll tell you everything. Someone like that, I haven't talked to him forever, like trying to dig for salacious information. I just, yeah, just left a bad taste in my mouth. And it reminded me of my friend, Anna, who I knew forever ago, probably 30 years ago, back in Laramie, Wyoming. And Anna was kind of a force of nature. She had two young sons. We met in a writing class. She was an excellent writer. And I just adored her. I loved her. But she was wild. She had issues. Her husband was a professor. She worked as a waitress a lot of the time. We would go out after writing class, and she would want me to stay out in the bar later. And she would always say, Jen, you can sleep when you're dead. I'm like, yeah, but I have to be at work at 8 a.m. So I have to be awake for work. But she would always say that you can sleep when you're dead. And she had a meth problem. And yeah, and there it was. She was also incredibly lively and generous and so much fun. And she gave me these earrings that I'm wearing today in honor of her, because I knew I wanted to talk about this. We were at a bar one night and she was wearing them, and I admired them. For those of you not on video, they're these beautiful, they're sort of a green stone, kind of a green slate, and then wrapped around with copper wire. And so I admired them, and she handed them to me, and I wore them for the rest of the evening and then gave them back to her at the end of the evening. And she had told me that she had gotten them from a girl from Prague. They had swapped earrings. I've got a little bit of a hair in this one, in one of the spirals. That will take more work than this. So I handed them back to her, and she tried to not accept them. She's like, no, you keep them. I'm like, no, I'm not taking her earrings. And then she gave them to me for my birthday. She wrapped them up in a package and gave them to me. And other people, like in our writing group, didn't like her. They didn't approve of her. There were a couple of the older ladies who wanted to kick her out. They thought she was too wild, and she was wild. She was also great at giving critique, and she was a wonderful writer. And um, yeah, and so, but we fell out of touch because she was really spiraling and getting even wilder and really doing the meth. And there was no falling out. It was just, I don't think, how it goes, right? Just a little bit of a distancing on our parts. She was no longer coming to our writers group. We had started this crit group outside of the class. Um, and she was struggling. She was having a hard time. And then one day I opened up our local newspaper and saw her obituary and saw that she had died. And it said after a few days in the hospital with an asthma attack. And I knew it was the meth, right? Obviously, it was the meth. It's a nice way to say asthma attack, right? She did have asthma, but anyway. And so I was full of grief, and I'm out in my garden, and my phone rings, and it is my boss's wife who, like, she's come to parties at my house, but I don't know her very well otherwise. And she says, well, I saw the obituary in the paper. And I said, yes, it's very, very sad. And she said, well, wasn't she your friend? She said, because I thought I met her at your Christmas party. And I said, yeah, she was at our Christmas party, and she was a friend, and it's very sad. And she's like, well, what happened? And I said, newspaper says it was an asthma attack. And she's like, well, she seemed fine at Christmas. And I realized that she had called me entirely to dig for the gossip, to know what the real thing was. And hell, if I was going to tell her, right? I'm not going to do that. And I thought, wow, what audacity to do that, to call someone that I don't know. Now we talk about parasocial relationships, and I'm not sure what that would have been, like the circle of friendships. Let's see, like my boss is not really my friend. So he's like, I don't know, third circle out. So she's like fourth circle. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, I wanted to tell you all that story. I don't think I have any kind of take home message, but I was thinking about it and thinking about Anna and thinking about, sometimes things just aren't our business, right? On that note, I hope you all have a fabulous weekend, and I will talk to you all on Monday. You all take care. Bye bye.